My name is Brian Harshman, and I'm employed with the Indiana State Police.
What is your rank or position?
I'm a detective with the Indiana State Police.
And how long have you been employed?
December 4th of this year will be 30 years.
And how many of those years did you have you spent as a detective?
Approximately 17.
During that time, have you investigated homicides?
I've assisted in the investigation of homicides.
And how did you become involved in this particular case?
In early 2020, I was assigned to the United States Marshals Great Lakes Southern Regional Fugitive Task Force, which offered me opportunities to sort of pick and choose some of the things that I wanted to do. We hunted, we looked for fugitives. But during that period of time, I had been talking to then First T. Sergeant Holman and had told him several times, hey, going on quite a while here, I'm sure you guys are burning the candle at both ends. I'm available if you could use any help. And he put me off for a few months. And then I asked him again sometime around maybe March 2020, and he agreed. And I kind of stepped in and started helping with the investigation at that point.
Now, once Mr. Allen was arrested and charged, did your role change?
It did.
And what did it change to?
Once he was arrested and detained, I began to monitor his communication from the facilities where he was housed, sort of inadvertently appointed myself, I guess, the caretaker of the phone calls and some of the video footage, things that we were receiving from the Department of Corrections. When I talked to now Lieutenant Holman about it, it seemed like a smart thing to do to have one person concentrating on that, just due to the volume of the work that was involved in keeping up with everything.
In your law enforcement experience, is it not uncommon or maybe even routine to monitor calls using something like GTL that are being made by an offender while incarcerated?
Yes, I've used that numerous times during the course of my career.
And so you were familiar with that process with regard to Mr. Allen at DOC, is that correct?
Correct.
How do you access the calls? Just to inform the court, how do you go about doing that?
When Mr. Allen makes a call from the facility, I'm notified via a text message that a call's been made, and it basically tells me what time and and it shows me a number that the call was made to. At that point then, I can get on a website through GTL and I can pull the call. I can pull the call up and then I can listen to the content of the call.
When you began this task, did you start at the beginning and have you?
I am currently completely up to date on all phone calls that have been made by Richard Allen.
And when Mr. Allen makes a phone call, are you documenting relevant information?
Yes, I keep.
And creating a report?
I keep notes, and then calls that I believe may contain pertinent information, I notify Lieutenant Holman and Investigator Mullen, and Investigator Mullen will generally send that call to a stenographer or, to get it, a transcript written. And I'll usually put that in the state police case report system. It involves so much time that there's a backlog on those, but I do know that, once they're transcribed, then Investigator Mullen has a copy of the actual transcription too, so.
Would you agree that that's one of the items of ongoing discovery that accumulates because the calls are being monitored and, if there's something significant, there's a record being created and you then document it?
Yes. It never ends. It goes every day it continues on, so.
Have you also you said you were reviewing video that's recorded within the DOC. Can you be specific as to what video? Because we all know that there's in-cell camera video and then there's also movement video.
The video that I've reviewed is the movement video that the Department of Corrections utilized when moving Mr. Allen from one place to another, just recently. And I'm not completely finished with all of them, but just recently I received, I believe, the bulk of the video provided by DOC reference.
Okay. And we're here about a motion to suppress Mr. Allen's statements while made in DOC based on his environment coercing those statements. So you've been notified of that, correct?
Correct.
And you've been watching these videos and listening to these calls, so you're hearing in phone calls, Mr. Allen's perspective on his circumstances, are you not?
Correct.
And then, you can also watch the video of how he's being moved around the facility and how he's being treated by the staff that appear in that video. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, we've been advised that when he's moved, there's at least 2 people moving him and 1 person recording. Are there, oftentimes, other people present that are part of staff?
I would say that, as far as your statement about a minimum of, I don't believe I've ever seen any less than that. There are times I believe when there are more. There have been times when Mr. Allen has been maybe less cooperative than other times, so I think they've had extra people in the area on for that, but I'm not positive.
When I refer to staff, I mean to include nursing staff, medical staff. Those should probably go together, but let me say Dr. Martin, maybe Mr. Walla.
Yes,
And then, there are instances where it is a medical visit, correct?
correct.
Has your observation of how he is treated by the staff that moves him indicated to you that there has been any sort of change from beginning till now? So, I would say in Westville we're talking about. So from December of 22 to December of 23, when he was at Westville Correctional Facility, was the staff treating him with respect and were they patient with him?
Yes. The professionalism shown by the DOC is almost over the top. More so than what I've ever seen in a custodial facility, frankly. I believe that due to the nature of Mr. Allen, whether people were told or they just assume, I think that everybody knows that due care and professionalism. And also, these officers are not stupid. They're being videotaped the whole time. They've got a camera in their face, so they know. But yes, the patience and the professionalism from the DOC is sometimes unbelievable, given the circumstances that they deal with.
Even when he's in a state of being covered in feces and needs a shower, and they're taking care of that in a respectful way to the extent that they can under the circumstances.
Correct.
Okay, so there's this period of time where confessions are being made. You've been reviewing some of those, correct?
Correct.
So if they're a phone call to his wife or his mother, have you reviewed those?
Correct.
If they are during a movement within the jail while he's being recorded by what they would call transport staff, have you observed those?
Yes.
And some of those actually involve movement to a medical visit. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any other category of observation you've been able to make with regard to confession statements?
No. I believe just the telephone calls, the videos and the movement videos, and then movement videos to the medical, which again I've seen most of, but I still have a few of those to go through. And then also noted that during this whole process, I've also been involved in the suicide companion door sheets, the notes that were written there. So I would get with Investigator Mullen or Lieutenant Holman, and I would notify them, or they would notify me if they saw on the door sheet something that looked pertinent that was documented by either an inmate comm, suicide companion, or an officer. And as a result of those door sheets, then I did follow up and conduct numerous interviews with Department of DOC officers reference their statements that they recorded on those door sheets.
And then you prepared reports on those as well, and those would be part of discovery?
That's correct. The reports were created and the interviews were also.
Transcribed or?
Yes, I know.
Not sure?
I know that most of them are. I hate to say they all were so far.
Okay.
But I believe so, yes.
So if Tihi, in reviewing this volume of information from a perspective of phone calls and videos and suicide companion sheets, did you observe any external factors that introduced themselves in April that coincided with Mr. Allen starting to confess? And would he himself relate the confessions to his finding God and being concerned about his future beyond? I mean, beyond this world, heaven and hell?
Yes, and he would have those conversations with Mrs. Allen and his mother. They all seemed to be very religious people, and, they had conversations, and he had extensive conversations about, if things don't go his way, then he wants to try to make sure, and oftentimes he says that he's not even sure with what he's done, and the fact that he's found God is going to be enough to get him to heaven.
When you say he's not sure what he's done, what do you mean by that?
Well, and that's sort of what he alludes to. He doesn't really go any further than that. He just talks about, I think he mentioned sins.
Oh.
The sins that he's committed.
Okay.
But nothing specific as to a particular sin when he was talking about that.
But he does talk about the crimes he's charged with in this case?
Yes, oh yes.
Okay. And does he talk about with them with specificity?
Yes. Yes, he has confessed, and he has talked about these crimes very specifically.
And are we talking about one time or multiple times?
I try to find a way to put it in numerical sense because there are varying degrees of what I believe is, there's some confessions where it's just, I did this, and this, and there's some where you sort of dance around the outside of it. But just direct confessions that I've been able to find, telephone calls, the videos, the door sheets, I'm 60 plus confessions at this point, and that's a conservative number without a doubt.
Okay. And in the ones that are more specific, does Mr. Allen include details that only a person involved in the crime would potentially know?
I believe that's correct, yes.
And does he ever talk about an obligation as a Christian to be honest and make things right?
I don't recall that exact phrasing, so I'd be hesitant to say I'm not sure.
Okay. How is his confessions to his family received in these calls?
Generally, the first confessions were, obviously, Mrs. Allen and the mom were extremely upset. Rightfully so. I mean, it's difficult to listen to, his conversation with them about it because, that's their husband, their son. Clearly, it's an extremely difficult time for them. As the confessions went on, Janice, Richard's mother would say, they're messing with you. They're messing with your mind. Kathy would kind of reiterate the same thing. Oftentimes, Kathy would tell him to stop talking. There's at least once, Mr. Allen was talking and she said, stop talking, and something along the lines of, I'm going to call Brad, and the call ended, so I don't know whether it ended on her end or his.
Do some of the statements actually include motivations for the crime?
Yes.
And do some of his statements relate to why he would have delayed in confessing?
Yes.
And did some of those relate to how his family might react to the reality that he committed the crimes?
That's correct.
Is there a period of time where he does not communicate with his family, either by their choice or his, as a result of him confessing?
Yes. There's been some periods of time where, for various reasons, he's gone an extended period, at least by standards, of not communicating with the family. And I think at one point his tablet broke, or he broke his tablet, so he had to wait to get another one. I think that he maybe had lost his communication privileges for a while for some incident that happened at the department. I don't know what that would have been. But other than that, he's pretty consistent in calling.
Is it correct that he has a concern over whether his family will still love him if he committed these crimes?
Yeah, I would say that that's probably the biggest common concern.
You indicated recently that you reviewed or found a statement that you thought related to him making having a conversation with Kathy about how this is impacting her, and that he would contact the police to make a statement. Can you?
Yeah.
Share that with the court.
In November of, I think it might have been the second week of November in 2022, and this is early on in his incarceration. Or his detention. This is just weeks probably. He makes the statement to Kathy that if this becomes too much for you, just let me know. I'll talk to the detectives and tell them everything they want to know.
Once he experiences his family not wanting to talk to him, is it sometime after that, of not wanting to talk to him after he's confessed, does he then cease or reduce the amount of statements that he's making about confessing to the crime?
Yes. I would say probably the bulk of the confession started in early April and probably continued on until through June, maybe into July. And after that, they started to really slow down as far as what I would consider the direct confessions. There's always, even still after that, we still have the conversations about, will you love me, no matter what happens? No matter, there was a period of time he was extremely concerned about what the family was going to see.
In fact, he indicated that he didn't want them to see what he had done. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then, he gets moved to Wabash Valley, and does he make any statements while at Wabash Valley that would be considered confessions?
In February this year, he made a statement that was documented by a Department of Corrections guard. I don't have the report with me, but it was somewhere along the lines of he was talking to himself, and he apologized for maybe killing AW, I think. To feel comfortable, I would want to review my report and make sure that that's correct, but that's the gist of it.
Okay. Would you recall a statement that he made to his mother in January of this year in a recorded phone call that he wanted to tell the truth and be honest and just didn't want to hurt his family?
I have heard those calls. As far as the timeline, if you're telling me January, then I believe you, but I'm not completely sure on the timeline. But yeah, I've heard calls to that nature.
He has said those things in phone calls?
Yes.
Okay. In your survey of all of this information that you described and in your interviews with officer companions that were logging his activities at Westville, did you ever learn any information that led you to believe that he was being coerced or induced to make incriminating statements?
I did not. One of the things that I really checked on during the interviews was, if the behavior between the DOC personnel and Mr. Allen, and then also if the DOC personnel witnessed any other P or Sonal having adverse interactions with Mr. Allen, and by far, the overwhelming consensus between the guards is they felt like he was treated way better than...
I'm gonna object at this point to speculation, and when he's testifying in bulk about about what a bunch of guards are thinking and feeling, I think it's a little bit beyond the what the evidentiary rules permit, which is something that has some indicia of reliability in a case like this. It's hearsay.
Judge, the officers who are relaying their impressions to this officer while he's interviewing them are giving him statements based on their observations, direct observations, of Mr. Allen. I think it should be admitted.
Overruled.
Thank you.
There's some reference to Mr. Allen feeling tortured. With regard to the defense's motion and memorandum, has there been a reference to that in the materials that you've reviewed?
Yes. Mr. Allen does state a lot that he feels like he's being mentally tortured, and he's been pressed by family. Are they hurting you? Are they making you? And he, as far as physical torture, he always says no. He believes that psychological/mental torture is what they're doing, and he equates that to functions like it's loud in the prison at night, and it keeps him awake. The lights are always on, and it bothers him. And he correlates a lot of those activities.
And so let's go back to what Mr. Razi had objected to. You were going to share with the court the impressions of the guards with regard to Mr. Allen. Do you recall your statement you were going to make about what Tihei had relayed to you?
I do.
Okay. Could you please share that?
Yes. The guards shared with me that they believed that Mr. Allen was receiving treatment that was above and beyond what the normal inmates at the facilities were receiving day in and day out, and... I don't know how to really phrase it other than it created between the other inmates and Mr. Allen. It creates it was noticeable enough that everybody on the range would know that Mr. Allen was being treated different than the rest of them.
Different in a better way?
Different in a better way, correct.
And did any of the officers that you interviewed relay their impressions that Mr. Allen was feigning or faking symptoms of psychosis to portray himself as crazy or...
Yeah, I would ask each and every one what they thought of the antics that Mr. Allen would portray, and without hesitation.
Judge, I'm gonna object. Can I ask a preliminary question?
Yes.
Are you communicating what some offender told you about their impression about Mr. Allen's psychiatric state?
No, I was making a statement on what a DOC officer told me he believed Mr. Allen was doing.
Right. About the way he was acting, whether or not it was a legitimate psychiatric issue or whether he was faking it, right?
That's correct.
Okay. I object. Again, we're getting a little far afield of the basic, hearsay admissibility rules. These people, these guards, have no qualifications to draw conclusions about psychiatric circumstances, in addition to the fact that it's hearsay, so I think that is beyond I'm objecting for that reason.
Judge, I'll rephrase the question to ask if officers relayed to him that they felt he was faking when he was acting out during April and May. I think that in a position of a corrections officer at a DOC facility, that they would be in a position to give a layperson's opinion about what they were observing.
Well, but not as it relates to psychiatric symptoms. I would sustain the objection on that.
I'll rephrase the question. Officer Harsh, Or, Detective Harshman, did you ask them questions about Mr. Allen's behavior not being consistent during the period of time that he was confessing?
I did.
Did they talk about him engaging in behavior described as bizarre?
I'm gonna object again. I'm not even sure who he's even talk about, like who these people are. She's just saying, did they? So there's not really any indication of
Officer companions.
who he's speaking with that's saying these things.
Can you narrow it?
Yeah. Were there specific instances that you were interviewing a particular officer companion who documented a confession that coincided with behavior that would be considered bizarre?
Yes.
Okay. And did the officer make any statement to you with regard to having an opinion about whether Mr. Allen was faking?
Same objection.
Overruled.
Yes. They believed he was faking.
Okay. And as you sit here today, you can't tell me specifically which officers told you that, correct? Because you don't have your notes in front of you.
Correct.
Okay. Did more than one officer that was a door companion for Mr. Allen share that observation or opinion?
I can tell you that I did see Heck, and I interviewed a total of 10 of those officers, and going back in my reports, I would be surprised if 8 out of the 10 didn't have the same feeling about that.
In reviewing the documents that you described, the door sheets, the phone calls, the video of movement, did you ever find evidence that someone was interrogating Mr. Allen?
Not once.
No other questions.
Mr. Rozzi.
Thank you. Were you able to watch some of the videos of the inmate companion sitting at his door side?
The videos that I had access to did not have any inmate companions in them. They were the videos that were used by the personnel during movements. Now, if there was a companion and caught in the frame when they were moving him, I would see a companion. I did not have like a hallway view. I had a cell view, and then those views of the movement. So,
You have no idea what the conversations were between the inmate companions and Mr. Allen, do you?
no, that's correct.
So from the very beginning when Mr. Allen was incarcerated, there was a plan in place to monitor his communications at the prison, right?
Yeah,
And that plan involved getting in touch with GTL and getting access to those phone calls, right?
correct.
And making arrangements with the DOC to obtain video, in-cell video, of Mr. Allen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right?
That was outside of my lane. That wasn't my responsibility, but I did receive those after the fact. Yes.
That was part of your job, was to review all that as well?
Yes, but I was not part of the making contact with the DOC and requesting that, so no.
Okay. So some other officer was doing that, but you were getting the product?
That would be fair.
Okay. And that also did it involve you getting access to his phone calls from the rec phone?
It's my understanding that any call that utilizes his DOC PIN number, other than to his legal team or attorneys, is recorded on the GTL. That's my understanding. If it's different than that, I don't know.
Okay. And do they have a phone that they used to bring on the block, or was like a mobile phone that they would use every couple times a week?
That who would use?
The inmates.
Regular inmates? I don't know what they utilize. Mr. Allen had a tablet that, best I can tell, as long as it's charged, he can make calls anytime he wants to.
And you had access to those too?
Those were also recorded on the GTL.
What about his digital communication through the tablet?
The text messages?
Yeah.
Yes, I have access to those. Also,
Okay. So there is no privacy afforded to him in any respect when he was in that cell in terms of his communications with the outside world, was there?
and when he makes the call out, he's notified of that. Everything is monitored and recorded before he makes the call. And even the folks that like Kath, Ms. Allen and his mother are also notified on the recording that, hey, you're receiving a call from correctional facility and it says Ricky, and it says these calls are subject to monitoring and recording, and then the call's connected.
Do you agree with me that there's no privacy afforded to him with regard to any of those calls, because you knew everything he was saying basically the minute he said it. Correct?
I did not monitor in real time. It would have been after the call's completed.
Okay.
Then I get notified.
But no privacy was there?
That's fair.
Okay. And, in fact, that would be the only way for Rick Allen to talk to his family about the circumstances surrounding his case, wouldn't it?
Or through the attorneys.
Well, but to talk to them directly about his case, he'd have to do it on the phone, right?
That's correct.
The most important thing in his life, right? He's incarcerated, facing accusations like these, right?
Yeah, he did talk about the case to his family, so...
And he's not even able to do that without the police listening to that, is he?
No.
So there was a pretty involved process to make sure that all this information funneled to you pretty quickly, wasn't there?
I don't think quickly would be a fair statement, 'cause nothing seems to funnel to me quickly. But yes, I do receive the information.
Well, you just said a little while ago you were getting text message notices.
Well, yes, I do get that.
When he made?
I'm talking about everything as a whole, videos, etc. So if you're talking about the calls, yes, I am notified of the calls after he's completed a call.
You ever monitored another offender at the DOC like this?
Yes, I have over the years, several.
Okay. Anybody that's been detained in the DOC awaiting trial for something they haven't been convicted of?
No.
This is the first time you've ever been in a situation where you were surveilling someone in Rick Allen's circumstances.
The only difference is because of the DOC. I mean the county.
All right.
Awaiting trial.
And you've never dealt with anybody up at the WCU, have you?
Inmate-wise?
Yeah, in the maximum security unit within Westville.
No, not an inmate, no.
So when you're watching these videos of him in his cell, you're seeing everything that he's doing, aren't you?
Correct.
If he goes to the bathroom, you get to watch, don't you?
Not exactly what I want to do all day, but yes, I do see it.
I understand that, but that's just the reality of the environment he's living in, right?
Yes.
The DOC officers, from a professionalism STANDPINT, have been over the top, you said?
That's my opinion, yes.
Okay. You see the videos of the DOC officers with their Odin patches on their chest?
I have not seen any Odin patches on anybody's chest. No, I've not been aware of those patches, no.
Okay. Did you see the video of him being transported in to get A?
I remember a couple of times for a haircut, I believe. I did not remember somebody ripping a patch off, no.
Okay. Did anybody amongst law enforcement communicate any of that to you?
At one point, obviously, there's talk about somebody having patches at some point. Again, outside my lane, so it wasn't anything I was involved in, so I don't...
Well, you interviewed a bunch of guards, right?
Yes. And as far as I know, none of them were involved in any of the patches.
Did you ask them?
Yes.
Okay. And so they all denied it? The ones you interviewed?
Yeah, they denied it.
Not one of the guards that you interviewed mentioned that they had anything to do with these patches or the Odinism associated with that.
Correct. None of them mentioned it.
You think there's anything unusual about an inmate that's in confinement turning to God as a way to deal with the circumstances of that confinement?
No. I would imagine that the stresses associated with that confinement would lead people probably to try to, find God.
Well, one of the only things that Rick had in his cell was a Bible, right?
I would say that's fair. I think he's got some magazines and some other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of stuff in his cell.
And then, when they put him on close supervision, they even take his blanket from him, don't they?
I would say that there's a reason for that.
Yeah. The answer's yes, right?
The answer is yes. They take his blanket.
So they strip him down the bare essentials, right?
That's outside my lane. That's how, those are decisions that I don't make, but why, yes, he would have less stuff in his cell, I guess, yes.
Right, which you would be seeing on the video that there's really nothing in there.
No, there's not a lot in there.
Yeah, and he also, for long periods of time, had T.O. wear a kimono, didn't he?
They call a suicide smock, but yes, I did see those.
You acknowledge that he has said things to officers and companions about this offense that are inconsistent with what happened at that crime scene?
I did not say that I don't believe.
Okay. You ever hear him say that he shot the two girls?
That he shot them?
Yeah. In the back.
I don't know that I heard him say it. I don't. I understand what you're.
That?
I just don't know.
Sounds like something you heard during the course of the investigation, right?
I've heard that somewhere, but.
And that he molested them, right?
I don't know. Sorry.
Do you agree that a lot of the things that he said occurred, almost all of them, within that? I think you said April, or you said maybe into early July, right?
The abundance, yes.
And the majority of those statements are what I would consider, I'm gonna use the phrase, generic, where he's just saying, I killed AW and LG. Or, I killed those girls. Right?
I object to the form of the question.
It's cross-examination.
Overruled.
Thank you.
Yes, there are those statements, along with others, yes.
Did you hear him early on in his period of incarceration, from December of, or November of 2022, through March of 2023, professing his innocence?
Yes, he has professed his innocence.
And did you hear him doing it again July, August, September, October, the end of his stay?
The end of his stay at Westville?
Well, the last, let's just say, 5, 6 months that he was there.
It would vary. There are times where he professes his innocence, and then he'll follow it up with I don't know how to explain it, but it's not a direct confession, but it'll be, something along the lines of an excuse for why he said what he said. So EW will go back to it. But yes, he's confessed his guilt, and he's tried to confess his innocence.
And what? Is it accurate to say that one of the contexts in which these confessions come up is him referring back to what he told prison staff in April, May, and June? Like, does that come up often?
That he talks about, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Like he might say, well, they said I confessed. Like he might make a reference like that in a phone call. Is that something you heard fairly routinely?
Yes, but I don't consider that a confession.
Right, but he's referencing he's referencing these statements that occurred in April, May, and June, right?
Correct.
And that is part of the discussion even into the more recent past, right? Phone calls?
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I got,
So he's saying he said those things more recently in phone calls, right?
Yes.
Even since he's been at Wabash Valley?
He says that he goes back and talks about the time he made the confessions now.
Right. He's making references about the past and using the word confessed or confession, right?
Well, he'll say, they say I confessed. If I confess, then convict me and send me to jail so we can get this over with. He'll attribute things like that. He'll say, if I confess, then whatever. They say I confessed whatever.
Okay.
So that's kind of how he reverts back, I guess, if that answered your question.
Thank you. November of 2022, you told Ms. Diener that he was suggesting to, I think it was Kathy, that, hey, if they want me to just do an interview with the police, I'll do that.
Yeah.
He was fine with that, right?
Yes. He made the statement, if this gets to be too much, go to the investigators and tell them I'll tell them. I'll talk to them and I'll tell them everything they want to know.
Okay.
And that was it.
kind of taking a chivalrous approach with his wife to this.
He what?
He was taking a chivalrous approach to his wife with this situation, right?
I mean, that's a good assumption. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what his motivation was, but yeah, I would think that would be chivalrous on his end if that was the purpose, I suppose.
And you don't have any training in the field of psychiatry, right?
I do not.
So you don't have any opinion about the impact that this long-term solitary confinement would have on his mental state, do you?
No, not based on an education or a degree, no.